Hi, I'm Nick Holmes and welcome back to my series of videos on the fall of the Roman Empire. In the first one, the last one, we covered the crisis of the 3rd century, which most historians regard as the beginning of the fall of the Roman Empire. Now, the Romans didn't fall in this first phase. Indeed, they survived and they thrived. And this was really due to three main emperors: Aurelian, Diocletian and Constantine. And in this video, I'd like to focus on Aurelian. Now, before we get to Aurelian, I want to finish the story of Claudius, who we discussed in the last episode. He was a remarkable emperor because he was a peasant who was proclaimed emperor in 268 by the army. He didn't come from the patrician or senatorial class, and this was revolutionary. He was promoted by the army because he was an exceptionally good soldier. And the first thing he did was to confront the Goths, who were overrunning the Balkans south of the Danube. And in the Battle of Naissus in 269, he defeated them. It was a major battle. 50,000 Goths were killed in a single day, a turning point in Roman history. Indeed, it reminds me of what Winston Churchill said about the Battle of El Alamein in the Second World War, which was also a turning point. He said, before Alamein, we never had a victory. After Alamein, we never had a defeat. And the same was true for the Roman Empire. After Naissus, we have about 20 years of Roman victories. Unfortunately for Claudius, he didn't live to see this because he died of the plague in 270, and he was succeeded by his right-hand man, Aurelian. What sort of man was Aurelian? Well, he was nicknamed Manu ad ferem, meaning in Latin, hand on sword. I think a better translation would be man of steel. He was famously a disciplinarian, but respected by his soldiers, and he was hugely significant in Roman history because he restored the Roman Empire along all of its frontiers. In 4 years of war, from 270 to 274, he defeated the Persians, the breakaway state of Palmyra, an Arab oasis state in the Middle East, which had revolted against Rome and caused a lot of problems. He also defeated the Goths, he defeated the Germans, and he defeated a breakaway Roman state in the West, in Gaul, Britain and Spain, called the Gallic Empire, which had broken away in order really to survive because Rome was incapable of defending its frontiers. And not only did Aurelian defeat Rome's enemies, but he offered the hand of clemency to those that deserved it. For example, Palmyra, which had been an ally of Rome's, he didn't execute its queen, Zenobia, who'd led the rebellion against Rome. And in the West, he also pardoned the renegade Roman general who'd set up the Gallic Empire. And in 274, he led a triumphal procession through the streets of Rome, and coins were struck naming him Restorer of the World. But despite these great victories, Aurelian didn't last long. He was assassinated by his own soldiers in 275. This was really a misunderstanding. There was a disaffected bureaucrat guilty of embezzling funds who, in order to save himself, made up the story that a number of Roman officers were going to be arrested and killed by Aurelian, and he encouraged them to strike first. They marched into Aurelian's tent and they killed him. When they discovered the trick, they killed the civil servant. When the army discovered what they'd done, the army killed those officers. But Aurelian was dead. I want to pause there and consider the state of the Roman Empire on Aurelian's death. The problem was that the army had become too powerful. The soldiers killed Aurelian. They also assassinated the next 4 emperors after him. In a space of about 50 years, there was an emperor every 2 years, 26 emperors in the period from 235 to 285. And the army was responsible for the death of most of these emperors. Now, this was an unsustainable situation. The army had effectively replaced the barbarians. It was terrorizing the Roman population. If you were an ordinary Roman, you were worried a soldier would come knocking on your door and demand your life savings, maybe take your wife and daughter. The army had to behave in this way in order to save the empire. It had taken whatever money it wanted. It overruled law and order. But clearly, now that the barbarians had been defeated, law and order had to be restored. And the man who would restore law and order was, in my opinion, arguably the greatest Roman emperor of all, a man called Diocletian. And in the next video, we'll look at the extraordinary achievements of his reign. And thanks for watching. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. You'll also find a link in the show notes to my books. Thanks for watching and see you next time.